Guys, this is Steven Reichert. This channel used to be Living Vertical. I'm going to start off here just talking to the folks that may have found this channel back in the day when I started it. This channel started as a project to raise awareness for type 1 diabetes through adventure and rock climbing specifically, because at one point in my life, I was a fairly prolific rock climber, and diabetes is still with me, of course, as type 1 diabetic. I'm going on 26 years now, living with that, managing it. And this channel gave me an outlet to share my story and put a different spin on diabetes than what was generally available to the public through the scope of adventure and rock climbing. And I am refurbishing this channel. I am getting it back going again. And I think some of you who may have found this in the past will enjoy this because I'm kind of touching on all the different things that I did previously. There was a phase on this channel after my year-long climbing project and the documentary that went with that, which I'll put links in the description after this live stream is done, and we can you can go back and watch some of that, or you can just sort through the videos on this channel. It's been a while since I've done anything on here, and some of you who've kind of gone back and forth and seen some of what I've done between the climbing and the photography. And there was quite a while where I was doing reviews and talking about cameras and adventure photography, which is still something that is very near and dear to my heart, even though currently I am not climbing anymore. I don't do a ton of photography. I do a little bit. Well, I don't know if I'm ashamed to say it, but the reality is that my phone has gotten to a place where it has replaced the dearly beloved Fuji camera systems and the Sony camera systems, although I do finally own a Fuji X-T2 after all the belly aching and complaining about that and the different reviews that I did, much to the chagrin of a lot of Fuji fanboys and girls out there. But I finally did break down and buy one, since they're like, $500 on eBay. But anyways, in the year since I stopped climbing, I went to nursing school. My first wife, Stephanie, and I split ways and have an amicable relationship and all of that stuff. But I got remarried to a wonderful young lady named Myra, and we have now 3 kids together, and then we each have one. So we got a pretty full house coming up here. We're living in New Hampshire. I am working as a medical surgical nurse. I've been working as a nurse for about 4 years. Time flies, even when you're not having fun. And I have gotten to a point in my nursing career where I've kind of gone through the paces of being a nurse, and it's like I'm looking for next steps and what am I going to do now. Some of the more recent videos that I made on this channel before I kind of pulled away from it were about farming. And so you might be somewhat aware of this dynamic that's been going on in my life, where I've been farming and working as a nurse and raising a family, living in New Hampshire. That's kind of what my life is right now. One of the things that got me thinking about starting this channel up again is because of the fact that I have a farm channel, which is actually linked in the description to this video. If you want to see kind of what I'm doing with farming, you can go take a look at that, click that link, subscribe to that channel. There I am talking about more the nuances in the world of farming as such. But on this channel, I wanted to have a space to talk about diabetes, type 1 diabetes specifically in my case, and what I am doing now, which is pursuing a certification as a diabetes educator. And back when I was doing the Living Vertical stuff, I spent a lot of time doing, what effectively was diabetes education, just without the money and without the paperwork. And now I'm working in in a pretty large hospital system, and I am going to be sitting for my diabetes educator exam this coming week. And then presumably, hopefully, Lord willing, I pass that licensure, I will actually be working as a diabetes educator. And I want this channel to be a place and a platform where I can talk about diabetes, but do it in a straight kind of, if you'll pardon the French, cover your ears, anyone who is sensitive, no bullshit way of talking about medicine that is applicable and practical for people. One of the things I've noticed working in the hospital system, and I don't say any of this just frame of reference to bag on the medical system or anyone who works in it. There are a lot of really good people who care a lot, but a lot of medicine is not actually spending time working with patients and helping patients because it's a system. And so systems are great in a lot of ways. The medical system has a lot of benefits, but when I look at it, especially in a hospital in an inpatient setting where I'm working and knowing what I know about living with diabetes for almost 30 years, I can tell you that the medical system is an inch deep and a mile wide. And having somebody who can actually unpack stuff and talk straight about stuff, and especially seeing the increase in all the medical issues, and when I say all, I mean all, like, people have by and large gotten significantly more unhealthy since, like, when I started doing Living Vertical on this very channel, which was called Living Vertical back in the earlier 2000s, around 2012, 2010. And there's a lot more people that are sick, suffering, obese, diabetes of both type 1 and type 2, all kinds of proliferation of autoimmune conditions. And there's a lot of that stuff going on. And the more that I work in medicine, I realize that people have a lot of questions and they have a hard time getting straight answers because in the hospital, we're not in a position to, and this goes for like your doctors. When you go to see your doctor, they're able to look at a couple of numbers on a piece of paper and say, we're going to take you from like A to B, but we're not really going to put our oar in the water about, C, D, E, F, G through Z. They kind of keep everything very truncated based on the amount of time and interaction that they have to deal with a person. And so I wanted to kind of share what I know and share what I'm learning based on what I'm seeing in the hospital here. Have some real conversations about diabetes, have some real conversations about nutrition and lifestyle as well. And certainly referencing some of what I'm doing as a farmer, because nutrition was a big part of the reason why I started farming in the first place. And if you want to see kind of that overlap between the farming and my work as a nurse and a type 1 diabetic and a certified diabetes educator, all that stuff, you can check the link for the farm channel, which is in the description here. On this channel, as I'm reinventing it again for like the 15th time over as many years, is going to be really more focusing on a hands-on practical look at diabetes, not from a sterile medical sense, but in a practical sense. Now, when I was doing Living Vertical and I was a professional diabetic, for lack of a better term, it always irritated the hell out of me the way everybody was very brand conscious, pharmaceutical conscious. Everybody was very industry conscious in their approach and the way they would talk about things, pulling punches and being very, well, not wanting to step on toes and not be direct about things and talk to people in a way that's candid and frank. And instead, it's like everything always felt to me like I was watching an infomercial for whatever insulin company or sugar meter company. And I was sponsored by Roche Diagnostics, some wonderful people at that company. And I have nothing against the industry. I'm not a leftist who thinks that, we should eat the rich and capitalism is bad. I think that there's a place and time for everything. And I wouldn't be here and be alive if it wasn't for the medical system, which has its flaws, but it's kept me alive. And if the pharmaceutical industry, the same thing goes there. But I think it's important for people to be able to have an honest critique of what's actually happening in the world and to be able to talk straight about medicine, because there's a lot more agility, a lot more freedom to say, hey, here's my opinion. Now, I'm a certified diabetes educator, but this is not clinical advice. This is my opinion. I'm just kind of blowing off steam. And I can tell you stuff that you're never going to hear inside the walls of a hospital that you probably should hear and that you would want to know. And there are things that, I tell my patients that I give long and extensive caveats about this being an opinion, but here's how I feel about cholesterol. Here's how I feel about the ketogenic diet. Here's how I feel about fasting. And like, what? I never heard of that. Well, I have some bones to pick with the American Diabetes Association and their parameters, which is ironically the, you know, gold standard by which certified diabetes educators must litigate according to that standard. And, I look at that and I see a ton of flaws and I see things that need to be addressed. So I figured this channel will be an opportunity to do some of that, answer questions, and help people because diabetes is a tough condition. I have been fortunate to manage it well in my life, but it hasn't always been a cream puff, certainly. And I know that a lot of people are struggling, and I deal with a lot of patients in the hospital that are newly diagnosed. After 26 years, I've kind of forgotten what it's like to be a newly diagnosed diabetic. But having to go from I can eat whatever I want and food is fun to now every time I eat, I got to take my life in my hands and take insulin. And if I don't do everything right, I'm going to get blind and my kidneys are going to go bad and they're going to cut my toes off. That's a hell of a leap to go through in what often is a very short period of time. And so I want to be able to help shepherd people through that process and say, hey, diabetes isn't the end of the world. It's a thing that you can live with. And it's a thing that ultimately is a tool to be more accountable so that you can be healthier. And by the way, here's some practical real world things that you can do that are going to improve your life and your family's life if you can get them on board with doing those things and really taking control over your health by paying attention to what you're eating, how you're eating, and focusing on things that, were easier to ignore prior to a diagnosis with diabetes. And also just to answer questions and talk about things that are, on you guys's mind and kind of hear from you guys. So I'm going to wrap this stream up here in the next couple of minutes. I would love to hear from you guys. If any of you have, watched stuff that I've done on this channel in the past, have any interest in any of these different topics, what's going on with the channel, I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm going to actually make like properly horizontal videos and like do uploads, but live streaming is so easy as a way to just get on and talk candidly. I want this to be part of what I'm doing on this channel to build a little bit of traction and to help people realize that, we're back and we got work to do because there's a lot of people with diabetes and I'm about to have a fresh certification hot off the presses to go in hand with my nursing license that enables me to give credible information, not just as a type 1 diabetic with A1C that has been very tight for the last almost 30 years, but even the paperwork that everyone values so much with the licensure from the state and the different certifying bodies that say that, yes, I am not a complete buffoon, but I actually have been able to remember answers and mark them down on a piece of paper that states that, hey, I can tell you what's up with diabetes. So that's what we're going to be doing here. This is a work in progress. I hope that you guys, some of you may come across this and are still around, still watching. If you are, give me a holler. Let me know what you guys are up to. I can't do everything and kind of do the full circuit of all the topics that I covered on this channel back in the day because photography is not, I am always going to be a photographer. And, that's part of who I am as a person. But this channel is going to be moving towards health, diabetes, wellness, but with a no bullshit, straight talk, layman's terms type of approach and attitude. And I think we need more of that because, frankly, and I'll wrap up with this, in medicine, in the hospital, there's too many people biting their tongue instead of saying what's actually going on or saying what they actually think because policy says this and I don't want to get sued for that and I don't want to get in trouble over here or over there. But being able to actually tell it like it is, I think there's some benefit there for everybody. Least of all, me. It's good for me to be able to blow off a little steam and just kind of speak off the cuff, stating opinions course, and we're going to be real careful not to give anything resembling medical advice, because, God forbid you do anything like that. Wouldn't want to tell people to, eat better quality food because it might be good for you, because then that could be construed as, giving medical advice, which I'm not licensed to do at this point, technically. But anyways, we'll see you guys on the next live stream or video. Drop a comment, subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and we will see you here. Diabetes from the ground up. We're going to keep it simple, and we're going to build on the very simplest level. Obviously, I'm still figuring out the slogan that's going to work for this, but diabetes from the ground up, because keeping it basic and simple, and going from there. And also because, like, the ground farming, trying to tie the farming in with the diabetes, those two things. So yeah, diabetes from the ground up, that's what we're doing. And we will see you guys soon, I hope.